into this mix. Mind playing tricks and I'm feeling
Check 1 2, check 1 2. This is Derrick Broze, the Conscious Resistance Network. Go ahead and let me know when you can hear me okay, and we'll get started. I'm going to start sharing this on social media feeds, and if you could do the same, first go ahead below, comment, let us know where you're listening from, then let us know who you are, and if you would after that, go ahead and share this with your friends, your family, on your timelines, on any groups that you're a part of, any pages that you admin. I'm going to be talking about a very specific topic today for the latest episode of the Conscious Resistance Live. But before we get into that, let me go ahead and share this out on my social media feeds real quick. And again, please let us know where you're listening from, comment below, so that later on when people are watching this, whether they're tuning in live or watching it later on this afternoon or this evening, they can see that, wow, there are people from all over the world paying attention to these ideas, and perhaps I should connect with them and see what I can do to help the state of the planet. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today. I'm not going to be doing my usual talking about the news and what's going on with that because, frankly, I've been a bit unplugged. I've been traveling the country as part of the Decentralize Your Life tour, which we'll talk about in a few moments. And I am now back home here in Houston, Texas, and I'm getting ready to leave again 2 more weeks. But this has kept me in a state of relative ignorance as far as what's going on in the world and what the corporate deadstream media would like you to be afraid of. And to be quite honest, there are vastly more important things out there today. Not to say that being informed is not important, because I'm a journalist, so obviously I write articles because I want you guys to read them and because I want you to be informed about what's going on in the world. But there are also many other important things that we can do, and that's what today is going to focus on. So in case you didn't see the title of this, it's called How to Unplug / Decentralize from the Matrix, and I'll be talking all about that. So once again, here are the things I would appreciate you doing. Comment below, let me know where you're listening from. Go ahead and share this wherever you can. I've now shared this on my feeds, and after that we'll get started. And if you're new here and you don't really know, my name is Derrick Broze. I'm from Houston, Texas. I'm a journalist, I'm an author, I'm an activist based here in Houston, and I write for the antimedia.org. I write for mintonpressnews.com, and I write for Activist Post, among other outlets. And I am, with my organization, the Conscious Resistance, going to be traveling the country. I've already spent 2 weeks traveling Texas, spreading these ideas of decentralization and unplugging from the system, so to speak. Today, I'm giving a special episode. Instead of my usual, as I said, my usual weekly, The Conscious Resistance Live, talking about news and talking about what's going on in the world. I'm just going to be talking more about theoretical, philosophical ideas and how you guys can take action in your lives, because that's the focus of my work. As I just mentioned, I'm an author. You can go to theconsciousresistance.com/books, theconsciousresistance.com/books, and you'll find 3 books that are a part of the Conscious Resistance trilogy that are available to download for free for your pleasure. Whoop, had a little brief interruption there, sorry. To download for your pleasure, for your reading. And please check those out, because that's where the bulk of today's topic's going to focus on. And just give me 1 second here. I'm going to share this out real quick and we'll get started. Thank you guys for your patience. And again, please share this link wherever you can. Let us know where you're tuned in from. We've already got a good amount of people tuned in, and very, very excited to have you guys here, because this is going to be a special episode. I've been working on these ideas, and my latest book, Manifesto of the Free Humans, focuses on this. How can you, as the beautiful, free, independent human being that you are, how can you find ways to decentralize and become more free from your life? I see Delta Lima is already kind of trying to troll here, saying, unplugging from the system, but you're live on Facebook, right? Yes, but this is where the people are, friend. And if I want to reach the people, well, it's wise to come where the people are and to talk to them. But you do make an important point, and that is that social media is really a very centralized system. And that's something I want to talk about today, because I've been, as I said, I've been touring the country, touring Texas first, and I'm getting ready to hit in 2 weeks, traveling the United States. And if you want to take action, there are actually tools that you can do. And if you want to stay here and troll, that's great too. It doesn't really faze me at all. But once again, the website is theconsciousresistance.com/books. If you want to find out all the details of the Decentralize Your Life tour, it's theconsciousresistance.com/tour. So I have a diagram. Let me just show you guys this real quick from my personal notes that I've been working on here. It's not going to make much sense to you guys. It's just a bunch of boxes with words in it, as you can see. But this is going to be turned into a much more comprehensible diagram that I'm using on the Decentralize Your Life tour. Now, once again, so I don't have to continuously do these introductions. For those who are new to me, just go do a search on Google, check out Derrick Broze, and you can find out all about my work. But I'm an activist, I'm a journalist, I'm an independent-minded, free human being. I'm an author, and my goal here is to educate myself and educate each other about how we can build new systems that represent, the health and the wealth of the people. So with that said, let's get into this. Now, the video is titled How to Unplug/Decentralize from the Matrix. Let's start with defining our terms. And I'm going to try to keep this short because if you know me, if you've heard me talk, I can go on for an hour plus. And if you want to hear me talk for an hour, please come to the Decentralize Your Life tour. We're hitting 52 cities around the country, and we'll be coming to your city more than likely. But what do I mean when I say the matrix? Why didn't I just say how to unplug or decentralize from the government or the state or corporations? Well, when I say the matrix, what I mean is a combination of those things, those various institutions that have power and influence over our lives. So this could be everything from the food production systems to the government, state, federal, local government. This could also be various corporate entities that use the government and work with the government to gain power and influence as well as to take from the people. This could also be the corporate media. And this could be the education systems, whether you're in college or if you're still in secondary school or you're even as young as junior high. This could also be your community itself. So there's various institutions that play a role in who we are and play a role in influencing our lives. And we are plugged into these in various forms. Each of our lives are going to be different. I'll share my experience. I'm a 32-year-old male from Houston, Texas. I have no children. I'm unmarried. I have a felony from 12 years ago, so that affects my ability to get a job in the mainstream world if I wanted to do that. Thankfully, I don't have to, and I'm a journalist, and I'm an activist, and I spread these ideas, so I don't have to live in that world. I'm unplugged from the matrix in that sense. But obviously, as people have pointed out, I'm here using Facebook, things like that. I'm trying to communicate to the people. But there are other areas of my life where I am more unplugged and some areas where I'm still plugged into the system. So the goal with the book Manifesto of the Free Humans, which is downloadable for free, I'll say it one more time, theconsciousresistance.com/books. I'm not here to sell you that book, so don't worry about it. You can download it for free if you like it. You can order it. Either way, it's valuable for you to check it out. So I am trying to teach people how to unplug from the system using a combination of strategies, one of which is known as counter-economics, which means that you unplug from the economic systems and you exit that system by taking your money in the United States, where I'm at, the U.S. Federal Reserve note or dollars, away from that system and redirecting those funds into your own community so you can build something that actually represents your community. And in a decentralized manner, this doesn't mean creating a new government or something like that. This means actually letting each community, each locality decide what is best for their own communities. So this is what I call holistic anarchism. Now, I want to say this for those who are unfamiliar, because I feel like I have to preface this often, and I'm apologizing if this is all, basic information for you, but there's a wide audience here we're talking to from people around the world who might not be aware. But listen to me. Anarchism is not smashing things in the street. It's not Molotov cocktails. There are some people out there who believe they are anarchists and who think that some sort of insurrectionary, violent solution is just that, is a solution. But it's not a solution. In real life, anarchists are those who unplug from the systems, who grow their own food. They are the people who talk to their neighbors. They are the people who foster healthy relationships, who use nonviolent communication. They are people who are creating the reality that they choose to seek, being the change in the world by unplugging from authoritarian systems, whether they be governmental or corporate power, etc. So, and yes, these are things like Ubuntu and others, although I have problems with Ubuntu. For those who want to check that out, Michael, the guy behind Ubuntu, him and I have done a debate. You can look up my name and look up Ubuntu and you'll find that. So holistic anarchism, if we recognize that anarchism is simply the idea that each individual owns their own body and has the right to live as they please, and no other institution, whether it be corporate, governmental, or even a revolutionary body, has the ability to tell them how to live their life. So that's what anarchism is. So what do I mean when I say holistic? Holistic simply means looking at whole systems. So if you look up the definition of holistic, you find holism. And holism is the philosophy of studying objects and studying systems as a whole rather than breaking down the individual parts. So when it comes to holistic ecology, it's the study of the earth and the environment and the humans together rather than looking at them as separate entities. Holistic medicine tries to study the whole body and instead of just treating the symptoms, actually trying to find the root cause of it. So when it comes to holistic anarchism, this simply means that people are governing themselves, they own themselves, and instead of only looking at the systems of power that control us from the government or corporate or trying to understand those philosophies, we actually look at our entire life. So again, whole systems. And that's what those little grid I was just showing you about is about. So I'm only going to talk for about 15 more minutes and I'm going to give you guys the brief rundown. And I'll be doing more videos on this. If you're interested, you can follow our YouTube channel, youtube.com/consciousresistance. You can also find us at the Conscious Resistance Network on Facebook. Go give us a like, please follow. And you can also follow my personal page at Derrick Broze and you can see what I'm all about. So let's get into this. Holistic anarchism then. The goal is to govern your own self. The goal is to create free communities of people who can come together and self-organize without corporate or state power. And to do this, we need to do more than simply understanding all the philosophers who have put forth these ideas. We need to do more than simply understand the nature of politics. We have to take a holistic approach. So what I have here, I'm going to list a series of steps, and feel free to write these down. This video will be available once it's done. You can watch it again, and we're also going to put it up on the YouTube channel if you want to watch there. And as I said earlier, I do this on a weekly basis, or I try to. It's called the Conscious Resistance Live. Usually I cover news, but today we're sticking more with philosophy. So step one of taking the holistic anarchist approach would be to have an honest self-assessment. That's what I wrote down, number one. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is to start with you. So imagine you have a box. At the bottom of this piece of paper, just start at the very bottom of the piece of paper, put a square, and put your name. Derrick is my name. So I put Derrick, right? And then above that, start drawing and writing down what are your goals, what are your values, and what are your interests. So what is it that you're trying to create out of this world? And this is also why I encourage meditation, self-reflection, for some people the use of psychedelics, yoga, any sort of practice that can bring you to a centered place and to getting to know yourself on a deeper level. Because if you don't know who you are, how can you actually know what your goals are? How can you know what freedom means to you? How can you know where you're headed and what you're trying to do? Not sure what happened there with the video, and I do want to say that I'm going to be doing a more official video discussing this on YouTube that will go up very soon, and this one is just doing the live version. So I don't know what happened, why the feed cut out there, but I'm going to go ahead and share this again real quick. And if you don't mind, share this again. I know there's plenty of people who are paying attention, who are listening. I do appreciate your patience as I set this talk up. I know there's a lot of information to take in, and I want to get to the important stuff. I want to get you guys understanding what I'm talking about here. It takes a little bit of work sometimes because I'm talking to such a wide variety of people. I don't know where everybody's level of understanding is at. I don't know, how, we're all coming from different experiences basically and different worldviews. And to sit here and to assume that everybody knows the topics and the terms I'm using, it's difficult. So I have to sometimes break it down for a wide audience and say, hey, do you know what anarchism is? Which seems fairly simple to some people, and I would say it is. But there's a lot of people out there who are fairly unaware, and I'm speaking to those people. So I've already taken the time to introduce myself. If you don't know who I am, then I hope that you'll go look me up later if it's worth it to you. But I'm just going to go ahead and get started. I've just reshared it everywhere I can, and if you can do the same, that'd be great. So what I was starting out with is describing holistic anarchism. Holistic anarchism is taking the holistic approach, looking at whole systems, rather than just studying political bodies and corporate bodies. So this means actually trying to understand the nature of our world from a holistic approach, not simply saying, well, if we just remove the corporations, things will be better, or if we just remove the government, things will be better. I think that both those institutions need to be wrangled in, and it's important for us to get to more free world, but I don't believe that that's where the work stops. So we can't simply say, remove corporations, remove the government, and everything's going to get better. I think most of us can rightly so see that that's not accurate. It's not what's going to happen. We're going to have difficult situations one way or the other. The best we can hope for, I believe, is to get to a point where each of us as individuals are taking this holistic approach and are trying to get to know ourselves on a deeper level so that we can then understand, as I said, our goals, our interests, etc. Now, I'm going to share this on the Mind Unleashed, and we're going to watch those numbers jump up, and anybody who wants to hang out can hang out. And I'm also going to take questions at the end of this for a few minutes, but I want to at least do a rundown of this this approach that I'm taking. So I think that most of the audience now understands what holistic anarchism is, I believe. It's the approach of looking at your whole life. And I'm going to break that down. What do I mean by whole? What are the areas of our lives that we should be understanding? Okay? So first, let me start where I was at. We're going to start at the bottom, get a piece of paper out, and at the bottom of this piece of paper, you can write your name. That's what we'll do first. Put your name. So as I said, my name's Derrick Broze. So I write Derrick in a box. I like to draw boxes around things. It's easy for me to understand. And then you have to look at who you are as an individual. What are your goals? What are your values? And what are your interests? If your goals include becoming as freely as possible, then you should look and see what are the institutions that are standing in the way of you becoming as free as possible. And, look at your values. Well, I value freedom, not just for myself, but for all people. What are your interests? Well, I want to become more independent. I want to become more self-reliant and self-sustaining, things like that. So you look at all these institutions, you look at these various mechanisms. Again, this is a part of the matrix, whether it's corporate, state power, etc., on and on. You look at all these areas and you try to assess in which ways you're actually contributing to them. So let's get to this part. This is why I emphasize the need for meditation, for a deeper understanding of self. So you have your name in a box, and then draw a little arrow and write some of your goals. As I said, maybe your goals are to be more free, more independent. Maybe you want to start growing your own food by the end of this year. Maybe you want to be living alone, whatever it is. And what are your values? Do you value freedom for all people? Do you value diversity? Do you value respect, mutual aid? What are these things? So you have your name and you take time, and this is not just going to be you're not going to finish this in a couple of minutes if you're actually doing this right and you're getting to know yourself on a deeper level. So you start with who you are, your name, and then you draw your goals. Then you write your values and your interests. Take a few minutes, take a couple days maybe. You don't have to rush to do this. This is going to be an important process. This is where you're going to work from the rest of this process. So write down your goals, your interests, your values. Work from that. And then above that, I want you to draw 3 more boxes. So you have your job, your habits, and your relationships. And then what I want you to do is, so you look at who you are, you look at what your goals and your values and your interests are, and then you look at your job and you say, okay, well, my goals are to become unplugged from the system. I want to stop paying income tax, or I want to stop feeding these corporations with my financial support or my moral support, things like that. But you look at your job and you're like, well, I work for the banks though. Maybe that's not exactly in line with my goals and my values. So then you have to start being able to, reevaluate that and see if that's important to you, and see, okay, well, I say I have the goal to become more free. I say that I don't want to support these financial systems, yet I'm working for a financial institution that is a bank, and and you do the research and you're like, wow, this bank actually contributed to the 2008 financial collapse and contributed to the loss of a lot of people's monies. And basically from there you have to say, do I really want to be free of this? And this is why I say this is part of an honest self-assessment. This is not about me judging you, because I can tell you my situation. As I said, I'm 32 years old. I'm not married. I have no kids. I haven't paid income taxes in 6 years. I'm becoming more independent so I can reduce my need for paying sales tax and paying for anything essentially, and I want to become as self-sufficient as possible. So you look at your goals, you look at your values and your interests, and you see, does your job align with those? And if it doesn't, then it's time for you to reevaluate. It's not time for me to tell you how to live your life. Then look at your habits and you say, okay, well, I also, I'm tired of this destruction of the environment and I want to contribute to making a better world. And I want to leave the seventh generation, my children and my children's children and on, and my grandparents and my great-grandchildren and people that we will never meet. I want to leave them in a better place than what I found. But every single day, I'm like the average American, I'm creating about 4 pounds of waste every single day. So if you see that and you're like, I'm contributing to waste in this world through my habits, or your habits are, well, I'm not eating that great, then you have to reevaluate those. And then look at your relationships, right? So we're talking about jobs, habits, and relationships. And in your relationships, you're like, well, I always say that I want to create a world where people respect each other and we talk with, with concern and compassion, and we actually hear each other. And you get so sick of the social media debates and the divisiveness. But then you look at your personal relationships and you realize, oh, wow, you know what? I'm talking to my children like they're, just my property. I'm talking to my good friends like I'm better than them. Or maybe you're not communicating at all. You're holding things in and you're not actually taking the steps to communicate. So again, you have to start with you. Write down with an honest self-assessment what your goals, your values, and your interests are. And then look at your relationships, your jobs, and your habits and see if they are aligned with your goals and your values and your interests. From that point, we go even further. So that would be the first box at the bottom would be your name. Then you would have your jobs, your interests, and your habits. And you have to look at those and say, are they in line with my values? Are they in line with my interests and my goals? And I'm not simply saying this because this is a better way to live. I'm saying this because if we don't do this, there's no way that the world is going to change. Now, let me give you the perfect example. You can go to every single march against Monsanto every year when it happens. You can go out there, you can make the biggest, best sign, and you can bring your children, and you guys can scream and bullhorn, and you can make as much noise as you want. You can even go outside of Monsanto's offices. But at the end of the day, when you go home, if you continue to support these unsustainable food production systems and you continue to support the pesticide industry or the unsustainable food distribution systems which have to travel thousands of miles to get to your local grocer, then you're not doing anything. And I say that with the most compassion I possibly can. If you are taking actions in the daily world that don't align with your values and your goals, then you're only hurting yourself and you're only working against yourself in the long run. You're not actually helping yourself get to the place that you claim to want to be. So I'm not saying this simply because this is like, okay, this is some self-help stuff. It's self-help, but it's also a better way to live. You need to live holistically. And this is, again, I'll reiterate, this is what I call holistic anarchism, because I believe that individuals have the right and the ability to self-govern themselves and to come together as empowered individuals, strengthened individuals, and form communities that are decentralized and unplugged from the matrices of the corporate media, the Monsanto food production system, the corporate classes, the state power, the academia, and the other institutions that form this matrix of power that exists. Now, we talked about relationships, jobs, and habits, and I want to break it down even further. And then I'm going to address some of the comments here. I see a lot of comments going on, and if you're just trolling, obviously you're not going to get a response from me, but if you have realistic questions, then please feel free to pose them. So then we've talked about jobs, relationships, and habits. Now this is where we're going to get even more specific, right? So how do you decentralize and unplug? You have to look at all these areas of your life. Again, this is the holistic method. So let's start with a few of these different ones. So it will have 5 more boxes. The first box at the bottom is you. Then you have your goals, your values, and your interests. Then you have in another box relationships, habits, and jobs. And then above that, we're going to go even more in depth. And this would be the economy, the food, education, family, community. Okay, so let's start there. The economy. Now, part of the Decentralize Your Life tour, the consciousresistance.com/tour, this is the tour, national tour that I'm involved in. Part of the tour is promotion of cryptocurrency, alternative currency, barter networks, trying to get people to unplug from the economic system. Here in the United States, we have the Federal Reserve banking system, central banking cartel. And wherever you're listening from, you probably have a central bank that is manipulating your currency, and there are probably corporate banks involved behind the scenes. So you can see the value in unplugging. So when it comes to the economy, you have to ask yourself, all right, how much good am I doing if I continue to use their currency? Now, in the United States, and I imagine most other places, they have a monopoly on currency. So if I try to create a similar note, piece of paper, green piece of paper that has value, they will accuse me of counterfeiting, and they can throw me in a cage, put me in jail for this. So they have a monopoly on the currency. But at the same time, we can start to create and support barter networks. We can create time banking and timeshares. Look up time banking if you don't know anything about time banking. Our credits. We can also support cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Dash, Ethereum, and we can create our own. We can create our own localized currencies. And one example of this that I'll give you before we move on, because I don't want to drag this on too long. This is just a preview for a longer video that I'm going to be doing on my channel, The Conscious Resistance, on YouTube. And you can follow us on the Conscious Resistance Network here on Facebook, and you can follow me, Derrick Broze. But in parts of Greece, shout out if we have any Greek people listening, but in parts of Greece, there have been towns who have rejected the euro and gone back to pre-euro currencies because of austerity measures due to economic turmoil. Now, these communities are completely rejecting the euro and saying, we're going to go back to a pre-euro currency, and we're going to decide all of us will still accept this currency within our communities. So that essentially renders them off the grid and unplugged from the state's currency, which would be the euro in this case, but in the United States, it would be the Federal Reserve note. So imagine if our communities just started to unplug and say, okay, well, you know what, guys, this dollar is starting to go down, it's starting to lose value. Let's get the dentist, the baker, the florist, the mechanic, all of our basic needs. Let's get all those people in the communities to start accepting cryptocurrency, or just create a brand new currency or something. And this would empower us and keep us away from their systems. So that's the economy. People are asking for the website. I'm going to throw the website on there again in case you haven't heard. theconsciousresistance.com. It's our website. It's a completely decentralized, community-sourced website where anybody can join and can put their content, be it videos or essays or interviews or vlogs, whatever have you. Come get involved in it. Bitcoin's worth is not a stock price. I don't have time to get into Bitcoin, but for those who want to understand Bitcoin, please check out bitcoin.com so you can look more into how it works. Bitcoin is not a stock. It's not a company. It's a decentralized peer-to-peer cryptocurrency that works on blockchain technology. And that's only one example. So I don't want to get stuck on Bitcoin because there's so many others out there that you can use to unplug from the economy. So that's just one example. And I'm going to show you again my little map here, guys, and it's in my sloppy handwriting, but you can see. So we got you. This is where I told you to start, with yourself. Then you've got your goals, your values, and your interests. And then you see if your job, your habits, and your relationships are in line with these interests and these goals and values. And then next, the economy. And then we have food, and we sort of talked about this already, where we're talking about unplugging from the unsustainable food production system. So to empower yourself in this area, you want to start growing your own food, whether that's front yard or backyard gardens, joining a community garden. And if you're not going to grow your own food, at least start lessening your dependence on the centralized grocery store food production systems by going to local farmers markets or buying food off of the farmers on the side of the road, or doing whatever you can to, again, unplug, decentralize, and to live more in alignment with your goals, your values, and your interests. Now I'm going to start going through these rather quickly. Education. So the beauty of the internet is we have things like Khan Academy. We have edx.org. If you've never heard of that, look up edx.org. It's a free website that allows you to get educated by university professors on a variety of topics. And this is the beauty of the internet and the decentralization of the internet. So you can take your education back in your own hands and stop relying on the state for that. Now, some of you may be in socialized nations where the state provides everything for you, whether it be healthcare, education, etc. I think that's problematic, because if you let the state dictate your education and your children's education, they are more than likely going to feed you their version of events. They're going to feed you, it's edx.org. They're going to feed you the version of history that says, we are the victors, we are the good guys, things like that. So I think it's very important, and it behooves you to find ways to educate yourself. And really, with the idea of the YouTube University and so many books are now available on the internet, and edx.org and Khan Academy, and there's plenty of others out there, you can really educate yourself without the need to go into debt like in the United States. And even if you're in a country that is, again, socialized, where your country is paying you free college, you got to be aware that it's not actually free, that money is being taken through taxation, which is taken through force, and it is then used, redistributed to pay for people's education, whether they like it or not. And again, you're putting your education in the hands of a centralized system, the state. So the goal here is unplugging and decentralizing. So we want to think about that. So then we move to your family. And this would include your relationships with your family. This would also include your relationships with your children. So I emphasize ideas like peaceful parenting, unschooling, homeschooling, ways to unplug from that. And then get into community. And I think this idea would be the way we communicate with our community, actually getting to know your neighbors. Check out an app called nextdoor.com. That's one that I recommend, okay? Nextdoor.com is a free app. It's a private social network for your neighborhood. So rather than just broadcasting to people all over the world through Facebook, which is helpful, it's actually targeting people closest to you. And this means you can go on there and you can post, hey, I have this food for sale. Hey, I brewed some kombucha. Hey, I'm having a community potluck. I want to get to know my neighbors. Come out. You can do business through this application, this app and this website, without the government or the corporate entities coming and getting involved and taking money out of your pocket. So community, this could also mean community defense, so maybe forming neighborhood watches. Essentially, again, decentralizing, unplugging, taking your lives into your own hands, and the benefits, the protection and the defense and the growth and health of your community into your own hands. So we're going to move on again here, but let's start back at the beginning. You, your name. Start with an honest self-assessment. Once again, I apologize for my crappy handwriting. You, who are you? What are your goals? What are your values? What are your interests? Do your relationships, your habits, and your job, however you make money, do those align with your goals, your values, and your interests? Then break your life down into several areas. And all of these areas you want to apply independence. You want to unplug and decentralize. Your economy, your food, education, family, community. You apply independence. That's what I wrote there. Independence to all these areas of your life. And thankfully, we have the internet, we have technology right now, but we shouldn't completely rely on it. I think the goal is to go off grid in some sense. But again, each individual's life and their interests are going to be different. Now, let's get to the topic of social media, right? Because people are saying, oh, look at this guy. He's talking about decentralizing, talking on Facebook. Well, guess what? I'm talking to thousands of people via this tool. So wouldn't it be silly for me to just talk to myself about this in a closet? Don't you need to go where the people are? Yes, we go where the people are to educate them and to try to learn together. So social media and the internet, I think this is a huge problem. I was thinking about this today. Yes, Facebook, it has connections to the CIA, has connections to the NSA. They give cops your information if you've been accused of terrorism or other sort of crimes. And this is a problem, okay? As I said, it's a double-edged sword. I'm able to communicate with you guys through social media, but there are other websites like minds.com. There's also freedomcells.org. Now, please check this one out. This is a network that I helped create the idea, and a great man helped me build it so that we can create a network that actually allows people to connect to each other, not just in the digital world, but in the real world. So that website, as I just posted, is freedomcells.org. freedomcells.org. So check that out if you want on decentralized social media and internet that allows you to connect to people who are of like mind in the real world. You can search on there once you create an account 5 miles, 10 miles, 50 miles, and actually find people that are closest to you. Now we get to defense. This is a bit further down the line, I think, if we're going to actually start defending our communities against state and corporate power. I won't spend too much time on that because it's mainly theoretical. But then again, once you've looked at all these areas of your life, starting with who you are, what are your goals, your values, and your interests, do your relationships, your jobs, and your habits align with that? How are you going to decentralize and unplug in all these areas so that you are more in line with those values, interests, and goals? You have to take a second self-assessment and decide, okay, maybe after looking at all of this, you're like, you know what, that's way too much work. I really don't want to be free. I thought I did, but it's going to be so much work. It's not worth it for me. I'd rather just keep living the life I'm living, plugged into the system. I'm comfortable, I'm fat, I'm happy. I got AC in my house, I got food in my fridge, I got TV channels that I can watch all day. And yeah, there's some problems out there, but it's not worth the effort. It's not worth my time. Or maybe you realize this is probably the most important thing I'll ever do. This is probably the most important thing that I could possibly dream of. To be alive now in a time where we have the information of all the past movements and all the past researchers and philosophers, plus the technology that they never had, and the ability to create the world we want, truly create it. But it starts with action, and it starts with taking time to actually know who you are. And the final piece here that I didn't mention is the self-introspection, self-reflection. And now, to some of you, this may seem like an afterthought, but I really think that this is the most important. This is the key element. And this is the spiritual element, getting to know yourself on a deeper level through self-reflection, through meditation, through introspection, through taking 10 minutes a day at the end of your day just to say, wow, how do I feel right now? What did I experience today? And getting to know yourself on a deeper level. Because if you don't know yourself, then how are you going to actually be able to understand what your goal is as far as freedom is concerned, what you're after, and again, understanding your goals, your values, and your interests. So at the end of the day, even if we are to all unplug from these systems and we all follow this path that I have laid out for decentralizing, if we are not good people, if we don't like who we are, if we haven't taken the time to get to know ourselves, then I believe we're just going to cycle back. You know, people talk about revolution, and what does revolution talk about? It's revolving, going in circles. I want to evolve, so we want to step out of that circle and aim for new heights, wake to rise to new heights every single day. We have to get to know ourselves on a deeper level so that we can understand who we are, so that we can understand how we can take the steps to create a more free world. And that's my goal. That's my ambition with getting you guys to take action. And that's all I'm going to lay out for today. I'm going to be doing some much more in-depth videos on this, looking at each of these parts, each of these topics, and breaking them down. And if you want to keep up with that, you can follow youtube.com/consciousresistance, youtube.com/consciousresistance. And of course, we're right here on Facebook at the Conscious Resistance Network. And you can find me, Derrick Broze, on Facebook. I don't think I can accept any friend requests right now, but you can follow me. You can send me messages. I love to communicate. You can also email me at derrick@theconsciousresistance.com. And the final thing I want to mention to you guys is if you appreciate this message of decentralization, I'm coming to probably somewhere close to you. I'll be traveling beginning July 10th for 6 weeks straight, going across the West Coast and the Midwest. And then in October, I'm heading 2 weeks to the East Coast. If you'd like more information on this, please Google, or actually don't Google because they're really centralized. Speaking of it, go to DuckDuckGo for a decentralized search engine, by the way. But you can go to theconsciousresistance.com/tour for all the details you want on the Decentralize Your Life tour. Decentralize Your Life tour. theconsciousresistance.com/tour. Check out the full dates and details. And that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for listening today. Find ways to unplug. Find ways to decentralize. Find ways to live in line with your values. Create the world you want today by taking action. Don't rely on institutions that don't serve you, hoping that they're going to actually empower you. It's time for us to create the world that we want, and that starts with taking action. Thank you guys so much for listening. My name is Derrick Broze. Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.